Hi, I will be talking about my favorite author, C.S. Lewis. He was not only a very inspirational person, but he was courageous and extremely religious, which I think is really cool for especially that time period when he was writing and everything. One of my favorite quotes that he wrote says, "Since it is so likely that your children will meet cruel enemies, at least let them at least have heard of brave knights and heroic courage. Otherwise, you're making their destiny not brighter but darker." This is probably one of my favorite quotes because I think it's very important for parents to let their children have a creative side, and it really helps them grow up as people. And one of his biggest characteristics is the way he wrote just inspired everybody. Like, there were not only people that looked up to him, but other authors. And that was probably one of the biggest honors that I can think of. Like, to have other authors who are just as good as you looking up to you and being like, this person is amazing, I love how they write and everything. And he wrote Chronicles of Narnia, which in that time period it was very looked down upon to talk about religion and everything. And he went out and he wrote these books which are very Christian based, if you've ever read them. And he wrote a book about that described the day that he renewed his faith, and it's called Mere Christianity. Beautiful book. And he just inspired a lot of Christians with his writing. I mean, he was an amazing writer and is to this day. He was extremely courageous. He actually fought in World War II. He volunteered and joined the British Army, which his dad, he got a lot from his dad because his dad was very negative towards it. And he was like, no, you can't join the army. And he was like, well, sorry, but this is what I want to do. He was actually wounded and had to go back. Like, he got sent back because he ended up getting hurt on the battlefield. And one of the things that I think is really cool is that he was criticized so much for his writings, and he didn't care because he was so, like, Christian, I guess is the way to say it, that when he wrote the books, he wove Christianity in pretty much all of them. And even though he got criticized for it, he was still like, well, I'm gonna continue writing these kind of stories. And he was very religious, and he had a very strong faith of Christianity. And in a lot of cases, he was seen defending the Christian faith, which I think is really cool because, I mean, it's one thing to be like, oh yeah, I'm into this, I do this, but it's another to actually stand for what that's what he did, which I think is absolutely amazing, and I look up to him for doing that because not a lot of people have the courage to do something like that. And eventually he married a girl named Joy, and she's actually an American poet and a novelist, and they were married until 1960, and she actually died. And 3 years later, he ended up dying due to heart failure. But even though he faced so many different trials throughout his life, he always tried to look at the glass half full instead of half empty. He was just an extremely positive person, tried to let out his positivity to everybody. And nothing was ever too much for him to handle. Like he used to say all the time, as long as I have God by my side, I can do it. And for me, he's very inspirational. Like, I love him. And he is actually known as being one of the most famous classic authors of all time. And I guess he's, for the reasons I've obviously explained, he is one of my favorite authors because his writings, he wrote in a way that just completely engorges you. Like, you just want to keep reading and keep reading. And I really love the way that he incorporated Christianity into his writing, even though back then it was really frowned upon. So, yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching.